have a confession. Sometimes I allow my fear of people who I perceive to be different from me to dictate my actions. And sometimes that fear of other people prevents me from feeling apathy and human connection. And I think this is an idea worth exploring because many conflicts in our world today, I believe, are rooted in fear of people we perceive different from us. A couple years ago, my wife, Heather, and collaborator and partner, she came home from work and she said, "We've been invited to Nagaland." And I said, "Great, what's Nagaland?" I'd never heard of Nagaland. I didn't know anything about it. And Heather's very creative. She's an artist, and sometimes I can't tell what's real and what's her imagination. And this felt like an imagined place. But she assured me that it's real. It's actually on the border of Burma. It's the country in red. And it's northeast of India. And so I Googled it. And two things came up that freaked me out a little bit. The first were these tales and pictures of headhunters. And I think I had some legitimate right to be a little afraid. Like, I don't want my head to be part of a collection. Not yet, anyway. The second thing was that there were all these warnings from governments around the world saying, don't go there. So the Australian government said, reconsider your travel plans. The New Zealand government said, avoid all travel. The Canadian government said, don't go there. And the United States government said, beware of terrorists and militants and kidnappings. So right off the bat, I'm afraid of Naga people. And I'm not sure I want to go there. But we decided to take a chance. And when we got there, we found this amazing place, Nagaland, full of beautiful mountains and trees and rivers and incredibly nice people, just kind, gentle people. And one of our first experiences with Naga people was we were walking in a park and these kids were following us. And I think to us, we were the other. We were the strangers and someone who was different. But they kind of overcame their fear and they were intrigued, and we asked them what they were doing. And they said they were kid roaming, which we thought was a really good thing for kids to do in a park. And we became friends, and it lessened our fear a little bit. This is Heather meeting a Naga tribesman and warrior and dancer, and they taught us all about their culture and their tradition and their history that we knew very little about. We had a very limited perspective, which I think led to our fear. We met students. We gave lectures at universities in Nagaland, and we met lots of students, and they asked us to tell Americans that we're not headhunters. We are hunting for knowledge here at this university, but we're not headhunters. We met artists who asked us to share in their work, and this is an artist named Leptum who is carving this giant wood sculpture, and without even batting an eyelid, he asked Heather if she wanted to try carving his work, and he's very generous and gracious. We tried new food. This is roasted squirrel and fermented rice alcohol. And I loved it. It was great. It was like chicken wings and beer for me. So I could relate to the Naga people, and I was feeling at home, and it was really great. And Heather showed her paintings in a cafe, and we started making human connections with Naga people and starting to have a more expanded perspective and less fear. We started a film festival called Global, where global meets local. And it featured films from youth in the United States and youth in Nagaland, even 3D films from Naga youth. Most importantly, we made a lot of friends, and we connected with people, and we were, losing our fear. But Nagaland is not utopia. Nagaland was colonized by the British, and when the British left, the Indian government colonized Nagaland. And there's many people in Nagaland who want their autonomy. They want to be their own deal. And so sometimes that leads to resistance movements and what is sometimes called terrorism. So there was machine guns everywhere. And but if we hadn't gone past our fear and gone past our limited perspective, we would only see Naga people and Nagaland as this limited other and not have apathy or human connection with that other. We did find some headhunters. This is a group of filmmakers who call themselves the Naga Headhunter Entertainment Group. And that's their logo with the head on the stick, which I thought was pretty cool. When we got back to the United States, and our heads were still attached, and we decided to invite Naga artists to come to the United States to build a cultural exchange so that they could teach us about their culture and learn about the United States from a different perspective. In December, we sent artists to Nagaland to continue the cultural exchange, and then in September, there's a group, we're working on getting a group of 15 Naga artists to come to the United States to, again, have cultural exchange, use art as a form of communication and building human connection. And they'll actually be coming, this is a picture of Greentopia Eco Festival in Rochester, and they'll be coming to perform at that festival in September. So, a year later, which is a year ago today, Heather comes home and she says, "Guess what? We've been invited to Pakistan." I was like, "Great." But I have to admit, unfortunately, I didn't need to Google anything to know that I had some images in my head that were based on fear and limited perspective. I was afraid to go there because I thought they might hate me. We had to face that fear, and for whatever reason, maybe our experience in Nagaland, we said, all right, let's go for it. Let's go check it out, and there's got to be nice people in Pakistan. So we met the most incredible people when we were there. We organized a conference. You see some of our friends here at a university. We had community leaders and students and artists and people coming together to work on cultural exchange and solving social problems. We had another film festival that featured films from Pakistani youth, and actually the winners of Best of Fest, one of the guys was from Afghanistan. And so we made new friends and we heard about their stories, and we sat and ate food and we made human connections and we started overcoming our fears. And we also learned that they were afraid of us. And many of their perceptions of Americans were that we hate Muslims and that we hate Pakistan and that we're violent. And it was a great opportunity for us to see something from their perspective and to teach them about us and give them a broadened perspective. We went on TV to talk about our experience and tell Pakistani people we don't hate you, and try to deliver a different message about how much we enjoyed our time in Pakistan. We made great friends. We met the most gentle people and really had an incredible experience. And the people in this picture and many of the people that we met, I'm still in touch with through Facebook. And these two guys are police officers. So we also learned that Pakistan is not utopia either, and there are people there who want to use violence to advance their own causes. And there's a reason sometimes to have fear. But if we had only listened to our fear, we wouldn't have made these friends. We wouldn't have had increased understanding of life in Pakistan and increased understanding of ourselves. We also learned that the United States operates a drone program in northern Pakistan where we fly unmanned planes and take people out with missiles. And at the time when we went, there wasn't a lot of news about it, and we didn't know that much about it. But we learned that that's a concern for Pakistani people. Thousands of citizens have been killed over the last 8 or 9 years of the U.S. drone strike program, including 176 children who've been killed by these drones. And we thought to ourselves, how can this be? How can this be happening to our friends? And they're no longer other people. They're no longer terrorists, but they're people. And is this the right thing to do? And is it based on fear of other? Is it just we're labeling them other and terrorists so it allows us to do this? So what we did was we came back to the United States and we made an art project where we took the drone strikes in Pakistan and plotted it out on a map in Massachusetts. And our question was, how would we feel about drones if it was happening in our country? If someone was targeting us, would we be okay with the use of drones to take people out? So we visited all the sites that would have been hit by drones and photographed what would have been taken out had a drone strike hit that day. And our goal was to build empathy and have people see that these are real human beings being hit by drones, and what would it feel like if that was you or your family, and what would be harmed. We also built a giant rhinestone-covered drone. It was 18 foot. We hung it from the ceiling at the University of Massachusetts. And once again, our goal was to ask, how would you feel if this wonderful technology was happening to you? I'd like to end by saying, I think a lot of our problems, a lot of our conflict in the world, a lot of violence comes from fear of others. And it's not just international. It happens here too. It happens in our communities when we label someone other, whether it's by race or by sexuality. Look around the room. Is the lack of diversity in this room because of a fear of other? Are our schools segregated because of a fear of other? And I think it's worth looking into, where does that fear come from? And is it real? And can we move past it through things like art and cultural exchange and empathy? I don't think it's just an artistic exercise. I think our peace and stability are dependent on our efforts to overcome our fears and understand human beings and make human connections. Thank you.